Good morning, everybody. This week we're going to discuss the book Insomnia by Stephen King. It's one of my favorite books by him. I know Stephen King doesn't quite love it because he felt that it was much too structured, but I actually liked it, and I just wanted to discuss it. So what is this book? What is the plot of this book? Well, there's this guy named Ralph. Ralph is a older man. He's watching his wife die of cancer, and he decides to go out for a walk one day. During that day, we meet another character called Ed Deepno. Ed is a normally pretty laid-back guy, but all of a sudden he's very upset, claiming that people are taking dead babies out in a truck out of town and accosting truck drivers on the side of the road. He calms things down, goes back to his wife. She's dying. And then we kind of fast forward by about a year. Ralph has had a problem ever since his wife died. He can't get to sleep. He only sleeps for about 2 hours a night. Welcome to the club, Ralph. My cats wake me up at 3:30 in the morning every day. Yay for me. He lays there awake, staring at the ceiling. He normally just gets up and sits down in a chair in his living room, stares out the window, waits for the day to start. That's when Ralph sees something he probably never expected to see. One day, as he's leaving a drugstore, he suddenly sees auras everywhere. The world is alight with auras. People have glowing colors around them. He sees he sees a world that he's never seen before. He's, obviously he assumes that that's just a piece of psychosis from getting no sleep for so long. So he tries to sleep that night. He can't get to sleep yet again. He gets up, sits down in his chair in his living room, looks out the window, and watches as two bald-headed doctors, as he puts it, wearing white tunics, leave one of his neighbor's houses. They seem pretty relaxed. They just stand on her porch and leave. He calls the police. They find his neighbor dead. Obviously, something weird is going on. It was shortly after that that Ralph starts seeing even more auras. He meets a friend, Lois, who he falls in love with, who also sees the auras. And he also meets a third bald doctor that is much less friendly than the first two. And I'm not going to go into any more about what the plot is because I think it's important for people to, read the book and find out. So what is this book actually about? Well, I mean, honestly, normally with Stephen King novels, I can, tug out a couple like subtexts and that kind of stuff. This one really isn't like that. And the reason why that is very specific. This book is a very specific table setting for his series, The Dark Tower. This is the book that introduces the Crimson King into the Stephen King mythos. This is the book that introduces the concepts of entities that go up and down in levels of the tower. This is the book that introduces a very important character for the last book in that series. And as such, there isn't much subtext to this novel. There is some subtext that I can get into, and I will get into that, but I mean, really, the main thing about this novel is it wants to move some pieces around to get stuff ready for the end of the Dark Tower novel. and as such, it's not really working deeply with deeper themes, but there are some. One that I'll touch upon, and probably be the only one that I'll touch upon in this review. It's the idea that insomnia doesn't kill people. It's never listed on the death certificate. People don't die from insomnia, but they do die from things like suicide. Because when you can't sleep, you really start to get worried. You start to be upset. The stress in your life gets really heavy. Thankfully, it doesn't happen for me, because the fact is, the only reason I wake up so early is because I have a 10-pound bowling ball that lands on my chest and meows at me and kisses me to wake me up. But with other people that honestly can't get to sleep, that could be a problem, and I totally understand that. And if you are understanding that, please talk to somebody. But I mean, that's about the only deeper theme that I can get into in this. Like I said, and someday we're going to have to talk about the Dark Tower. But I'm kind of afraid to start talking about that too much, simply because, well, there's a lot going on in that. But definitely read this book. Is it worth reading? Yeah. How can I put this nicely? Sometimes Stephen King seems to really like his characters. And what I mean by that is he seems to want to spend a lot of time with these characters that he really likes. And, that's great. But I will say this is a 650-page novel. And probably it could have been a 300-page novel if somebody was more involved in the direct plot, as opposed to wanting to spend about the first 400 pages just sort of hanging out with the characters in this town. It's set in Derry, by the way, the same place that it was set in. Pennywise doesn't show up because it's set after the events of it. But I mean, sometimes that does get under my nerves a little bit with Stephen King. And I feel sometimes he just really enjoys hanging out with these characters and ends up kind of stretching the book a little bit too far in just hanging out with them. And I mean, the thing is, if another author's hand, that would be really annoying, because I mean, let's face it, some writers really can't create characters that are as well fleshed out as Stephen King does. But Stephen King actually has a talent for writing characters that feel real, even in situations that are totally unreal. So I don't really mind it that much. And also the other usual criticism with Stephen King is his endings are kind of bad. His ending in this one is actually quite good. And it's actually very thematically appropriate for how the book began. And I won't give it away, but I will say he actually nailed the ending in this one. So I can't criticize him for that. So, is the book worth reading? Yeah. Pick it up. It'll probably be a very good summer read. It's a lot of fun. It has a lot of really good characters to hang out with, to get to know, and to just spend time with. And if you're reading The Dark Tower, this is pretty much a must read between book 6 of that series and the last book. You're not going to understand some of the stuff in the last book unless you have read Insomnia. And I mean, it's that is what it is. To be honest with you, I'm not totally sure why Stephen King couldn't have folded some of the events of this book, more into the Dark Tower series proper. But at the same time, if we'd done that, we would never have met Ralph. We'd never have met Lois. We would never have met Ed Deepno or his wife Helen. We would never have met the bald doctors. And so there is a lot of lore that gets established in this book, so it is important to read. Anyway, that's about it for today. Definitely read the book. See you again pretty soon. Bye-bye.